Today, I will be setting up from scratch this mini PC for astrophotography, including setting up remote desktop, setting this PC up so that it acts as a hotspot even if there's no Wi-Fi around it, installing astrophotography capture drivers and control software like Nina, and then mounting this on my telescope. The reason I'm doing this is simply because I now have a full second telescope, second mount, second camera, second everything. I just need a second computer so that I can control two sets of equipment at once, which is a slippery slope for me. Typically it means I'm about to burn out, but hopefully that's not going to be the case. So this little PC is the Melee Quieter 2, which has since been replaced by the Melee Quieter 3 with a slightly more powerful CPU, which is always very good. I'll put all the links down in the description. I've reviewed this mini PC before on the channel. I'll probably put a link somewhere above. It's an amazing little thing. It works really well. It's really small. It doesn't have a fan. It takes 12 volts as input. I love this little thing. Super useful, super good. Anyway, let's get started with the actual setup. So I am controlling the mini PC with this mini keyboard because mini everything, why not? And I'm currently on the PC. The only thing that I've done is I've done the initial Windows 11 setup. I have set up a user account without password. This is important because we'll want Windows to auto log in to that user account so it can launch a piece of software that I'll be using to make sure that Windows generates a hotspot even if there's no Wi-Fi network around it. So currently I have the Wi-Fi network connected to my home network, so I have internet connection, and what I'll want to do is first set up remote desktop so I can access this computer remotely. So for that, I'm first opening the File Explorer. I'm going to right click on this PC, look at Properties, and I want to look at my Windows version. If you have the Melee series, you'll see that your Windows version is the Pro version, which means that you can basically make this PC act as a remote desktop server without doing anything more. If you have the home version in there, then you'll need to do something more, which is install the remote desktop wrapper. So to do that, you can actually just open your web browser, search for RDP wrapper, and click on this link. I'll also put the links down in the description. You want to download, I prefer the zip file. And once it's downloaded, you can go to your downloads folder. You can extract all. And this will create this. What you can do is double click on rdpwinst, or you can right click on the install script and say run as administrator. Since I already have Windows 11 Pro, I will not be doing that. But if you have home, doing this should then, after you restart the PC, let you, actually maybe even without a PC restart, but should let you go to the next step, which is what we're going to do. We're going to go to the Windows menu. I'm going to search for remote, and you can see we get remote desktop settings here. So let's go to the remote desktop settings. And I'm just going to turn on remote desktop. And it asks me to confirm, which I will do. And here we have remote desktop turned on, and we have this weird name for the computer that I can use to connect to remote desktop. I'll also open this remote desktop users part. My username, Quiv, already has access, which is good, but I'll need to do something else. I want to again click on the Windows button, search for GP Edit, and this will be opening up Edit Group Policy, which I can click. And under Computer Configuration here, I can go to Windows Settings, then Security Settings, then Local Policies, and then Security Options. And in this list that I get on the screen, I will be double-clicking on Accounts, limit local account use of blank passwords to console logon only. And I will set it to disabled and click on Apply and OK. So now we've disabled the limitation that remote desktop can only be accessed by users with password, because I'm not looking for high security. I just want to have a passwordless experience for everything to work together with this astrophotography PC. Now my next step is I want to rename this PC name just to make things a bit easier. So again, I can go to my File Explorer, right-click on PC, go to Properties, and I can click on Rename this PC. My other mini PC is called Mini Astro 1, so I'm going to call this one Mini Astro 2. Here we are. I'm going to click Next. And I'll be just restarting the PC, and it will now have the new name and be connected to my Wi-Fi network and have remote desktop enabled, including 4 accounts without a password, which means that for the next step of the video, I'll just be accessing this PC remotely just to make sure that it all works. So let me click on Restart Now. So I am now on a different computer and I am ready to get this working. So I am going to search for remote desktop connection. Here it is. I'm going to click this, and in this window, you're going to click on Show Options. And what you want to put is you want to put the name of the computer here. For me, it's Mini Astro 2. It's the name that we just set in the previous step. And of course, I've restarted the mini PC and it is turned on. And in the username, you want to put the name of the computer /Quiv. Well, not Quiv, but your username. So my username on this computer, the Windows account username, is Quiv. It's something that I set up during the Windows 11 initial process, which doesn't allow screen recording, so I didn't capture it, but you should be able to set it up when you first install Windows 11. And this yen sign, by the way, is just with Japanese computers, backslashes appear as yen signs, so this is actually a backslash. You also want to make sure that you are on the same network, so you're connected to the same Wi-Fi router as your mini PC. But if everything is set up, I'm going to set allow me to save credentials, and I'm going to click on connect. Sometimes you'll get an error like this. Don't fret, try again. And now it works. For me, I don't have a password, and as you remember, we allowed the computer to be connected to without any password. So I'm gonna leave the password blank. I am going to check Remember Me and click on OK. Now we get this little warning there. I'll say don't ask me again and click on yes. Okay, we get the error again. No fretting. Click connect again. And let's try again, and now it works. Sometimes remote desktop is a bit weird like that, but it works, always works in the end. So now we are on the mini PC that we were just using a moment ago, except I'm connecting to it from another PC. And the advantage of using remote desktop compared to something like TeamViewer is that, well, it always works, and TeamViewers, it always tries to detect commercial use, and if you use it too much, it will think you're a commercial user. It's really painful. And also, like here, it's like just local network. Everything works. It's part of Windows. I simply like remote desktop, very responsive. So now we can go to the next steps, which is make sure that Windows can act as a hotspot. There will be multiple steps for this, so let's get started. So I am going to click on the Windows icon, search for hotspot, and under mobile hotspots, I am going to set mobile hotspot to on, and I'm going to edit the properties. I'm just going to call the network Mini Astro 2, and I'm going to set whatever password I want in here. I will not be showing you which password I set. Okay, now I've set the password. The mobile hotspot is on, but there is, so you can see it is available for me to connect to, but there's another issue. Windows tries to be too smart and will turn off this mobile hotspot if it doesn't detect a connection within a certain amount of time, which is super annoying. So we are going to work around this using software called Persistent Hotspot. I'm going to click on the first link. Here it is, Persistent Hotspot. And I'm going to download the latest installer version 1.0.3 and click on Open File. And then next, I want to install for everyone. I'm going to click Next. Yes. And close. So now persistent hotspot is installed. Windows should not turn off the hotspot. If we go to the little arrow here, we have the hotspot is on here. And as an additional bonus, it will also automatically start up when you start your PC. Okay, so there is another step because Windows is really annoying. It will only set up this hotspot if you have a Wi-Fi connection in the area. So because I had my Wi-Fi here, home network, it was able to create a hotspot. But of course, if we're going into the wild, we won't have such a Wi-Fi network. So we want to make sure that this hotspot will start up even if there is no Wi-Fi network that the Windows computer can connect to. So there are two things that I do. We're going to do the software solution where it should always work like that. But at the same time, what I would highly recommend you do is on your phone, you set up your phone hotspot to have the same name and same password as your home Wi-Fi network. Because if you've set it up like that, at worst, if nothing works when you're in the field with your computer, it's not producing a hotspot, you could simply launch the hotspot on your smartphone, then restart the mini PC manually, and then because it will think it has access to its home network Wi-Fi, it will create the hotspot, which you'll be able to connect to via remote desktop. It's super annoying, and I wish it could be different, but that would be a workaround. Now, to avoid using that workaround, I am going to use a Windows Store app that costs around $2, but seems to be working. So I am going to open up the Microsoft Store, and we are going to search for an app called Hotspot. So there's a free version of the app called Hotspot Lite here, which I haven't tried because I saw the reviews were saying the ads are super annoying. What you want is the paid version here, which is this Hotspot app here by Tech Vidal. And I already bought it. For me, it was 270 Japanese yen. And I do assume that for you, that should be around $2, assuming you're paying in dollars. So I am downloading the Hotspot app, and I'll see you once it's finished installing. Okay, it's finished installing. So I am going to click on Open. And you can see it has a hotspot name. And we're going to set the same password as the one that we set for the Windows hotspot a moment ago. So make sure it's the same. Otherwise, it has like a random password that it sets for you. Okay, so I've changed the password. So I am going to turn the hotspot on. So it kind of like works together with persistent hotspot and the Windows hotspot functionality. And it says hotspot created. We're going to do something else. I'm going to click on the ellipsis at the bottom, and you can see that auto start on launch is disabled. I am going to set that to enabled. Okay, so now this piece of software will auto start the hotspot on launch. Persistent hotspot will keep it on. And this little piece of software doesn't care whether the computer has access to the home network. Whew. I think this video is for ASI Air users so they can gloat over us. But once I'm done, I'll have a more powerful system than you have. Okay, so now we have this hotspot app that will start a hotspot once it's launched. And persistent hotspot will keep it open, so that's good. But now we need to make sure that the app starts when you start the computer. So for that, I am going to open a File Explorer window, and we are going to go to this PC, C, Program Data, Microsoft, Windows, should be here, and then Start menu. Here it is, Programs, and finally Startup. Okay, we already have persistent hotspot in there because it put itself in there automatically. Now what I'm going to do is click on the Windows icon, click on All Apps, and I'm going to search for Hotspot. There it is. And I'm going to drag and drop to here. Okay, we're going to get this error because Windows is really, truly annoying. We're going to say yes. This will create a link on the desktop. Now I can select that link, click, press Ctrl C for copy, then go to this Explorer window, press Ctrl V for paste, and then click Continue. Whew, we're getting there. So now, when I restart the PC, we'll have the Wi-Fi hotspot also start without needing any home Wi-Fi. And I'm going to double check that by completely turning off my home Wi-Fi router and restarting the mini PC. See that it all works. So let me do that and I'll get back to you once it's done. Okay, we're getting there. So I have turned off my home Wi-Fi. You can see I don't have any internet access. I have restarted afterwards the mini PC. It's finished restarting. And let's see whether I can search for Wi-Fi network. And yes, we have the mini Astro 2 hotspot. Excellent. So I can connect to it. And at first it may look like it didn't connect properly, but if you check it again, you'll see that it's connected with no internet secured. And that means that in theory, fingers crossed, I can go to my remote desktop connection, and with my mini Astro 2 profile, I can click on connect. And it all works. So now, even in the wild, and you can see we have the app was properly started. It properly started the hotspot, and the hotspot is persistent. Everything's beautiful. So this part was honestly the most complex part of the whole process, jumping through hoops to set up remote desktop and the hotspot that will work regardless of where you are, even if you are in an area without network connectivity. And the next step, we're going to do the fun Astro stuff. You could also, by the way, go ahead and install Google Chrome and something like Chrome Remote Desktop, our TeamViewer, our Real VNC, or any one of those remote desktop connection solutions that work over the internet. That way you have yet another way to connect to the mini PC. But for now, I'm just going to keep with remote desktop because we have it working and I don't need anything more for now. Now, of course, I will first need to start my router again because I need internet connection to download all that we need. I'll be right back. Okay, so now everything with the hotspot is working fine, which is great. I am going then to install the Astro stuff. The fun part begins. This was really the most painful part. I don't know why Microsoft decided to make people jump through hoops like that. Honestly, this should be supported by default. It boggles my mind that it isn't. But anyway, I'm going to open the browser. We're going to search for ASCOM standards because we need to install our ASCOM drivers. So I'm on the ASCOM standards page. We're going to download the latest version. And while we're doing that, we're going to download another few things that we need. So I am going to search for Nina. We're going to download the latest version of Nina. I am actually going to download the nightly version because I've had good success with it. And we are also going to download ASTAP because we'll need that for plate solving. So we're going to, under ASTAP, download the program. And we're going to go back to the ASTAP page because we need to install our star database. This is going to be for plate solving, which helps with automatically centering your targets with a go-to mount. Now, you need the database of stars that you download will depend on your field of view. So you want to double check this this chart here. For me, the D05 database should work pretty well since I have a fairly wide field of view. But you know, in case of doubt, you could always download the D50, which is the one with the most stars. To be safe, you can just go ahead and download D50 if you know you're going to be using high focal lengths. For instance. So I'll download both and I'll see what I do in the end. And while we're downloading stuff, let's download some more stuff. I'm going to search for PHD2 and we're going to download PHD2 guiding for auto-guiding our stars. So we're downloading a whole bunch of stuff right now. And what else are we going to download? we need to download the actual ASCOM drivers that I'm going to be using. So we want ZW drivers, right? So I'm going to search for that. Okay, we have ZW software and drivers. And for me, I will want the ASCOM driver because I do not have any ZW cameras. But if you have ZW cameras, you'll want the camera driver as well. Okay, so we are getting the ZW ASCOM drivers. The ASCOM drivers for ZW for me are going to be used with the ZW EAF, their electronic focuser, which I use on one of my setups. And on another setup, I have the ZW AM5 mount, which also requires this driver. So this will take care of this. Talking about mounts, I have also the Ioptron SEM60. So I am going to search for Ioptron SEM60 drivers. It brings me to this page here, and I'm going to click on SEM60, SEM60 EC. So again, what you download depends completely on the equipment that you have. I'm currently downloading the stuff that will work for me. So what I will need is to click on Commander and ASCOM driver installer. Okay, we're getting somewhere. I don't have my Celestron focuser supported yet, so I am going to go to search for Celestron focuser driver, which actually this didn't really give me much information. So instead, I'm going to go to the manuals and software link. And in here, we have the USB ASCOM driver for focuser. So I'll download this. I'll also download the Celestron focuser utility. And what is left, I have a QHY guide camera. So I am also going to download that. So QHY camera drivers. So let's download that. And I'm gonna get the stable version. I also have a TopeTech guiding camera with the 290 sensor, which is really good. So I am also going to search for TopeTech ASCOM drivers, just to have the ASCOM drivers for my cameras. And on this link, I am going to go to ASCOM TopeTech Setup. Now, again, Windows has tried to protect me, so I am going to say, yes, I want to keep the star database. Yes, I want to keep anyway. You wouldn't have to deal with such annoying things if you're using Chrome. We're gonna keep anyway. Okay. While I'm downloading all of that stuff, I noticed that my clock is completely wrong. It's actually 8 a.m. on the 27th of April. And that's super important to have the right time on your PC for mount control, for meridian flip, for the astrophotography software. Super important. So I'm going to go first enable the location services because Windows 11 is weird like that. So I am going to search for location, go to location privacy settings, and we're going to enable the location services. Okay, automatically, due to local location change, your time zone has been switched. Thank you, Windows. And now we are 8:04 a.m., so nothing more to do. Okay, and all of the downloads are done, so I am now ready to just set up everything. So I go to my downloads folder, and we're going to start from the start, which is the ASCOM platform. That's like kind of the building blocks for ASCOM drivers. And we get this platform installer, and we can just keep the default options. I am going to click on install. Okay, and the operations have completed. Everything was automated. Just gonna click finish. Now we have the ASCOM platform installed, and I can go with the rest of the ASCOM drivers, starting with the ZW ASCOM driver package. So I'm gonna accept the agreement. So I don't have the electronic filter wheel, but maybe I'll have it in the future. I don't have ASI cameras. So you can choose whether to install those or not. I don't have either of those, so I'm just going to uncheck them for now. I could always reinstall later. I have the EF and I have the ASI mount. And so I am going to set it up like this. Okay, let's finish the setup. Next is for my Ioptron mount, if I choose to use this computer with the Ioptron mount. So I'll be doing exactly the same thing, installing everything. Next install is the usual process. Okay, let's finish. Then the Celestron focuser, ASCOM driver, so let's install that. Yep, this is all good. Then I want to install the TobeTech ASCOM driver, just in case for my TobeTech guide camera, if I choose to use it with this particular computer. And click install. Okay, now I have most of my ASCOM stuff done. I'm gonna wait on QHY-CCD until after I install Nina. So before I do that, I am going to install ASTAP for plate solving. Okay, so program files, ASTAP. Here we go. And yeah, why not create a desktop icon? We're gonna install this. I'm not going to launch ASTAP for now. And I need a star database. So in the end, I downloaded both D05 and D50. I'm going to try D50 for now. If I still, which should work for pretty much any field of view and zoom level that you have on your images. Okay, and let's get all of this installed. And we're done with the star catalog for our plate solving solution ASTAP. So what are we going to do next? I'm going to do PHD2 installer. And just keep installing as always. Okay, I don't need to launch anything for now. So I have PHD2, I have the ASCOM drivers. Let's install Nina next. So I am going to right click and click on extract all. We're gonna just extract the zip file for Nina and then double click on Nina setup bundle to install Nina, which will be controlling everything. And of course, later in the video, I'll show myself connecting all of the equipment to Nina and doing like some very basic first Nina setup stuff. And again, it's a next installation. We've installed Nina now, so that looks good. And then in the end, I am going to install my QHY-CCD drivers. And the reason I do this last, I'm not exactly sure how much of an impact it has. It's because we have the drivers here. We have the ASCOM drivers, and I'm going to select platform 6.5, even though the latest platform is 6.6. And also I can select Nina here. I'm not sure what that changes, but that way, probably better be safe than sorry. I have no idea. Just gonna click on install. And please disconnect USB for QHY cameras when installing the drivers. I have nothing connected to USB, so we're good there. Oh, I can choose which QHY drivers to install. I'm not going to need anything except QHY-5.2. And most of the current cameras, they are under the QHY-5.3 umbrella, at least for the guide cameras. For me, I don't have any of those newer cameras, so I'm just gonna select it like this, click next, and install. Okay, and we're done with the QHY camera setup. So I think I have all of the... Oh no, we're not done actually. Now it wants me to do more stuff. So I'm just going to click next, as usual, and click finish. And I uncheck this and I click finish. Okay, I think we're done with everything that I needed to install. I have Nina to control everything. I have PHD2 for the guiding. I have my ASCOM drivers for my focuser, camera, mounts, and I have the native drivers for the cameras as well. Yeah, I think, and I have I think I have everything. So we should be ready to actually get this PC onto the telescope, and that's exactly what I'm going to do now. And here is the PC mounted on my telescope. It's right there, and it's connected to the focuser here, to the mount here, to the camera there, and outside behind the computer there is a guide scope. So it's just connected to everything. It's also connected to my home Wi-Fi network, but as we set up earlier, with its own hotspot, I can connect to it directly from my smartphone or from a tablet or from another computer, even without any Wi-Fi around. And then I can use remote desktop to control the mini computer. So now that we've seen how it looks like, let's go and do the actual setup of Nina to get some imaging done. Okay, now we've seen how the setup looks like with the computer on top connected to the mount, the focuser, the guide camera, and the main imaging camera. We can start connecting all of this in Nina and then doing like the Nina initial setup. See if I've forgotten anything. So before I start Nina, actually, I can try to open, since I'm using the ASI AM5 mount, the ASI mount software that got installed together with the ASI drivers. And here I have the choice between COM3 and COM4. I don't know which is which. One will be my focuser, one will be my mount. Depending on your hardware and what you're using, it will be different for you. Yeah, let's try COM4. Seems it's having issues. Okay, failed to open COM4, so we can try COM3. Hopefully this one will work. Connect. Okay, perfect. And so it means that COM4 will be my focuser. Let's start Nina. Oh, and yes, because I'm using the nightly version of Nina, I'm getting this message. So if you're using the normal version of Nina, you will not be getting this message. If you do get this message, you can do exactly what I'm doing right now, which is just downloading whatever Nina is telling me to download. And once it's done, I'll be able to just run this. After I've installed this, it's likely that Nina will ask me to download another runtime. But, let's get through it. Okay, so I'm running this one. Good, this is installed. We can try to start Nina again. We get a slightly different thing. Yes, I want to download, and we'll do exactly the same thing. So I click on here. Oh, I want only one download, so I let this one download. I didn't need to click it, it downloaded automatically. I'll click on open file, and I agree to the license and terms conditions that I spent a whole of 0.1 seconds reading. And we're good, and I think that's the last one. Nina will now start. Yes, we're getting somewhere. Okay, I'm going to just allow Nina to access whatever it needs. And Nina is open. So before I connect all of the equipment, actually, I'll go into my options and I will be changing my color scheme to my preferred one, which is Persian. I like this color scheme. In my equipment, I will set my equipment name. So my telescope name will be Hyperstar C6. I'll have a focal length of 300 millimeters, focal ratio of f2, and my mount, I'll give it 5 seconds to settle after a slew. Okay, so that's one thing. I'm not going to put API keys right now for the moment. And the camera information should be input automatically as soon as I connect the camera. So I'm not going to bother with this for now. Under general, what else do I want to put in? I'll put the auto update source from nightly because I'm already on the nightly version of Nina. So I want to make sure that I get the newest version as they arrive. Astrometry, I'm not going to set my coordinates yet because my mount knows about my coordinate, and the moment I connect it, I believe that I will get the coordinates from the mount to Nina. In the autofocus tab, I'll put the settings that I remember worked well for me. So I'm not going to, do a tutorial on how to set up the whole autofocus sequence in this video. If you're interested, I have a video on the topic. You can search for it on the channel. And Patriot Astro Chad has made other videos on the topic as well. So I'm going to set a step size of, I think it was 30 actually. 30, a default exposure time of 3 seconds, simply because I'll be using my luminance filter at first. And I want to use the overshoot backlash with the out method. I'll put 150. This is specific to my focuser, so for you, you will likely have something different. I'm not going to change anything here. Dome, I don't have a dome. And imaging, my image file path, I can choose anything I like. Now, one of the things that I need to change, and this is because of the AM5 mount, that in the ASCOM driver, I cannot set a limitation until at which point it stops tracking after the meridian. Right now, it's only 4 minutes. So I'm going to tell Nina to flip 1 minute after the meridian, or maximum 2 minutes after the meridian. And then under the plate solving tab here, I am going to set up ASTAP as the local plate solver. So we do have ASTAP installed in the default folder. So Nina has already set the path, and I shouldn't have anything else to do. Everything should be set up for the plate solving. So we are ready now to connect the equipment. So in the camera list, I'll search and I see my TaubeTech camera here. And let's try to connect it. And it is working. Excellent. Let me try to cool it. Currently the sensor temperature is quite high, so I'll just put like a very high target for now and see whether the cooler is working. Yes, and I can also set up the dew heater. Everything is fine, so I'm going to stop the cooling. I don't want the camera to just get tired, and stop the dew heater for now. I don't have a filter wheel, but what I like to do is to have a manual filter wheel. And once I connect a manual filter wheel, which is a complete virtual filter wheel, the advantage is that I can tell Nina which filter I have in my filter drawer, which is great to match like flat frames with light frames later in stacking software like PixInsight. So after I've connected the manual filter wheel, I can go to Options, Equipment, and I can set my filters. And one of my filters will be an L filter. The other one will be my Antlia ALPT narrowband filter. So I'll just set ALPT. And then another one would be the IDAS GNB filter that I also often use. That will be the choices that I put in my manual filter wheel. And there they are. Perfect. Focuser. I want to connect my Celestron focuser, so I can select Celestron USB focuser, which is there because we've installed the ASCOM driver. And then I'm going to click on the settings, and the port is, should be, I don't remember. I think it was COM3, wasn't it? Let's try COM3. Nope. So let's try COM4. Yep, okay, that's good. We now have the focuser connected, so everything's good. And let's do the telescope connection. So I choose ASI mount, and I click connect. And here we are, we get the message that I wanted to get, which is, okay, your mount and your Nina have different coordinates in. What do you want to do? I'm going to say that I want to take the coordinates from the mount and set them into Nina. And this is all done, the telescope is connected. Now I could connect the guider. So for that, I need to run PHD2. So we have PHD2 here. So let me run PHD2. And we have the first light wizard. I'm going to try that. I haven't used that in a while. So my guide camera will be a QHY camera. It is connected to the PC. Let's see if it can find it. Yes, it did. Perfect. And my guide scope focal length is 120 millimeters. It's the QHY mini guide scope. Then I can select my mount, which is the ASI mount. And the sidereal speed, the default for the ASI mount, is 0.5. So we are good. And I'm going to click next. I don't have adaptive optics. I don't have a dark library. I'm not going to build one now because we're in the middle of the day. And I am going to call my profile Celestron, or just Hyperstar C6. Excellent. So now I should be able to open the Connect Equipment tab, click on Connect for the QHY camera, it's connected, and click on Connect for the mount, it's connected. Everything's good. And later at night, I'll be able to do my usual calibration, and everything should work peachy, I would assume. One of the things I'll do is I'll go into the View tab and say I want to display the graph. Here it is. And that's good for us. And that means that in Nina, I can select PHD2 and connect. And we're all good. So now we have pretty much all of the equipment required in Nina to really get started with a sequence. I'll do a little bit more setup with plugins. So what plugins do I use in Nina? So plugins, we have a lot of available plugins. One of the plugins that I use is Ground Station, which lets me have notifications on my phone at various points in my sequence, or if there is an error that happens. So I will just install Ground Station, and after I install it, I will be able to configure it so that I can actually use pushover for me. But I will not show this in this video. This is just for information on what modules I use. We have Hocus Focus as well, which is a plugin that replaces the default Nina autofocus, which I spent a lot of time working on a few years ago. And it's been upgraded so much and made so much better by George here. And my next item will be Arbuculum. This is really cool when you want to do multi-target sequences. So you want to target multiple galaxies in one night, for instance, because then you can say like, okay, image galaxy A until galaxy B is 40 degrees above the horizon, that kind of stuff. So it looks into the future targets, and it's a very convenient plugin. So I am going to install it. And I'll also install Remote Copy that lets me copy my images onto a remote folder. So I can actually connect my network access storage or my main computer and have Nina save the files on the local imaging computer, and they will be copied to the remote computer as well. That lets me be very lazy. I never have to transfer files from the imaging computer to the main processing computer because they're already transferred automatically by remote copy. Another plugin that I find absolutely amazing is the 3-point polar alignment. It's absolutely critical, and it lets you do polar alignment very precisely, even if you don't have a view of the celestial pole. I've demonstrated this in quite a few videos prior to now. And finally, we have the web session history viewer. It allows me to check how an imaging session went without having to connect to this PC. I can just use a web browser on any PC on my local network, or smartphone, or tablet on my local network, and I can see sequence history as well as the progress of the current sequence. It's a really little cool tool. Once I've installed the plugins that I like, I will click on this requires restart. This will close Nina and reopen it. Under imaging, I can set the star detector to be Hocus Focus, the star annotator to be Hocus Focus, the autofocus to be Hocus Focus. Whew, that's difficult to say. And I can go and configure each of my plugins independently, because you'll likely be using different plugins than I am. I'm not going to go into the details. And with that, we are mostly done with the PC setup itself. So next will be to test this under the stars. So with the magic of editing, I'll see you under the stars. Before we get there though, please remember to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're new, in which case, welcome. And leave a comment. Tell us if you have other ways of setting up your computer, other tips and tricks, whether you think using a computer is terrible and we should all be using ASI Air or any other such things. Please also like or dislike the video, whichever you prefer. And if you want to support me to really help me, you can also join the channel, join my Patreon. And as an option on Patreon, you can also get access to my videos early and without ads. And you guys truly, truly make the channel possible. Thank you so much. You can also buy awesome merch if you'd like. Okay, enough talk. Let's go and switch to the nighttime and see how it all works together. We're at night, we're connected to Nina, and I can quickly see whether things will work properly. So you can see I have the image from the camera here, so the camera seems to be working fine. And we can also test the focuser by simply like moving it in one direction and see after I take an exposure what happens to the stars, just to make sure that everything is working as we expect. And yes, we can see the stars are much less in focus than they were before. So again, go back in the other direction to make sure that it works again. And the stars are back to more or less in focus. I can double check also PHD2, and I see stars in PHD2, so the QHY camera is working perfectly fine. Everything seems to be doing pretty well, so I'm going to do a quick thing as well. I am going to use manual focus targets here, and we're going to slew somewhere. So manual focus targets, I'm going to add it to the center screen here, and we're going to go for algebra and slew to target, and the mount is slewing. Doesn't seem to be any issues, so we have, it seems, properly set up our little mini PC here for all of the equipment that we have. Things are working great. Now, because I have the balcony light on, I don't expect plate solving to work, but we can try it. So I am going to click on here for plate solving. It's going to open this new little window. I'm going to put it back at the center. Plate solving, and we're going to say sync reslew to target, and let's see if our setup of ASTAP with the plate solving worked correctly. And it seems to have worked. Everything is on rails. And it's going back to target. Amazing. Things are just working. I like when things are just working. And with that, I think we have completed the PC setup. This little mini PC is now connected to everything, working with everything. It's also building its own Wi-Fi hotspot, even if there are no Wi-Fi networks around, which is one of the weaknesses of the Windows hotspot. It really wants to share the internet. The mount works, the main camera works, the guide camera works, the focuser works, everything is working fine. I call that a success. And I hope this has been useful to you. I know it's been a long video. I probably rushed too much or went too slowly for others. Maybe I didn't use the best solutions for everything. So please let me know down in the comments what I did wrong. And if you're watching the video and following the steps, check the comments as well to see whether, especially a pinned comment, if I'm told that I made a mistake somewhere, I'll put it in my pinned comment so you can see anything you want to improve in the process while you're following the steps. As ever, please go and subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. All of this really makes the channel stand out. And if you really want to support the channel, you can also join the channel on YouTube or join my Patreon. You guys truly make the channel possible. It's really amazing, all this support. And with that, I hope this has been useful. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget whenever you can to look up at the stars. And I'll see you next time.